Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Reversing Hashimoto's. Today, we have with us a wonderful Annabel Bateman with us from Australia. Welcome over here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here from down under.
Yes, wonderful. Before we go into the discussions, I would like to introduce you so our audience knows who you are and what you do. So, Annabel Bateman is a Hashimoto's patient. She's an author, advocate, and coach. She has learned in 25 plus years of living with Hashimoto's that the key is developing a lifestyle that supports and doesn't stress her thyroid health. Drawing on skills learned in previous careers as a lawyer, life coach, family law mediator, and author, Annabel seeks to empower, educate, and encourage women with thyroid conditions to develop their own thyroid friendly lifestyle approach to their health so they can thrive and not just survive. She hosts a successful podcast called Let's Talk Thyroid, which seeks to spread thyroid awareness and information and is active on social media to spread positive and practical thyroid health. While there is no magic happy thyroid formula or protocol, you have got to start somewhere. And she has written this great book called Let's Talk Thyroid. And this book is that somewhere which everybody should read to seek some help for thyroid. Annabel lives in Brisbane, Australia with her husband and three teenage sons. Wonderful. Welcome again, Annabel. It's a pleasure talking to you. And we are all excited to hear about your story and how did you manage to live with thyroid and Hashimoto's for such a long time.
I know it's a very long time, isn't it? Well, thank you very much, Dr. Gupta, for having me on your podcast. I really enjoyed having you on mine a little bit of time ago now, talking about your fabulous book. So I think between us, if you read both our books, you're off to a pretty good start. So I would say to your listeners, if you haven't listened to you being on the other side of the interview, go listen to that because it was a really enjoyable conversation too. So nice to be on your show. I really love this about the podcasting space, is getting to meet all these fabulous people from around the world.
Absolutely, yes. So why don't you share your story, like of thyroid struggles and Hashimoto struggles? Because I'm sure 25 years ago, there was no functional medicine or there was no natural ways of treating or even managing your thyroid. So you would have tough time in figuring yourself out, a lifestyle that will support your thyroid. So please share that story. I think that will be very, very empowering for a lot of his listeners.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it is a long story, so I will try not to make it too long. But so I was diagnosed back in 1996 when I was about 22 or 23. So I was in my final year of my law degree, and I'd got to the point where I was exhausted. I had the classic hyperthyroid symptoms, gained weight, couldn't lose weight. I was quite puffy. If I look back at photos at that time, I had quite a lot of puffiness. My hair was thinning, brittle. Wasn't falling out in clumps, but it was definitely thinning. A lot of muscle fatigue. And I think in the end, that was the symptom that really took me off to go get checked out, because I just couldn't hold my arms up to wash my hair and blow dry my hair. And at 22, you should be able to hold your arms up, to wash and dry your hair. And so that probably in the end was the clincher. That's like, something's really not right here. And sure enough, went off to my local general practitioner. My mum actually is a nurse. And so she was like, I wonder if it's your thyroid. I mean, she sort of says now, I should have kind of picked it up earlier, but she did pick it up, in the end. And so it was really just went to the doctor, got a thyroid test. I'm pretty sure it was just the standard TSH way back then, but my TSH was 185.
Wow, that's high.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, how are you still alive? And I'm like, I don't know. I just thought you just kept going. I thought didn't know that there was an alternative. So yeah, off to the endocrinologist very quickly, who put me on thyroxine. And I really, I just remember clearly him saying, you've got, I don't know if he said Hashimoto's, I'm not sure, but, you you'll be fine. All you've got to do is just take this pill for the rest of your life and you'll be fine. And, you know, at 22, you don't want to be told you're going to be on medication for the rest of your life. And yeah, so I guess that was the beginning of the diagnosis. And then the last 6+ years of working out how to live well. And that's taken, a long time. But that was sort of what got me there. So I'm quite grateful in the end that I wasn't given the runaround that a lot of thyroid patients are, in terms of getting a diagnosis. Although I'm convinced it was probably triggered around puberty. So I think I probably lived with it for a good 10 years before it was picked up. But once I was sent to the doctor, it was very quickly picked up. So I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely, yes. There are several clients that I see on the everyday basis. They have suffered for 10 plus years or sometimes 20 plus years of dreadful symptoms. And still, they have been going to their doctors and nobody has bothered to do a complete thyroid panel. And often that get missed, especially Hashimoto's. As you know that just the TSH alone doesn't pick up Hashimoto's. You have to do the antibodies.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of the general practitioners do not do those antibodies. So we miss that window of opportunity where you can diagnose Hashimoto's at a very early stage. So, you got diagnosed with Hashimoto's and, obviously you are much more healthier than what you used to be at the time of diagnosis. So what is the secret that you have figured out that can help and support your thyroid?
Yeah, look, I think the secret is there's no magic pill. There is no magic. There's no one thing. And I think, for me, it's been an up and down journey over a long period of trying lots of different things. So initially it was just I took my medication. That obviously that improved my health a lot, just because my thyroid function was so terrible. So, and I'm still on medication. So, I'm an advocate for, if you need to be on medication, you need to be on medication, but there's still lots of other things you can do as well. And I guess what I often say is if all I did was take my medication, I'd be feeling pretty miserable. But if I didn't take it at all, I'd be dead by now. So, I don't think it has to be either or. I think it can be both. But look, so initially I just took my medication. I think if I look back, back when I was diagnosed, there was no Google, there was no internet, there was no, I didn't own a computer, so there was not access to information, just was different. I do remember taking some cassettes to my general practitioner that I don't even know how I came across these cassettes, but it was about progesterone cream and balancing hormones. And I don't even really know if, where that came from, but my GP, he was really good. He listened to the cassettes, he talked about it with me. So I don't know really I don't remember what the outcome was, but obviously I was looking for other treatment pathways from fairly early on. I have always been an advocate of seeing a naturopath. And so again, probably a few years after I was diagnosed, came across a naturopath in a local health food store. And he was the first one to tell me that I'd be better off without, gluten, dairy, sugar. I didn't really believe him then. So I didn't want to, that was way back before. But I think if I had have just listened and done what he said and stuck with it, I could have saved myself probably decades of trauma, but I didn't. So that's part of the journey was I'd try different things. I'd just sort of give up but in the end, I think about 10 years ago, I really started taking the dietary aspect of my health seriously. And that's when I cut out some of those typically inflammatory foods. So things like your gluten, grains, dairy, sugar. I kind of did a paleo 30-day sort of challenge. And at the end of that, just felt much, much better. I didn't feel bloated every time I ate. I had more energy. I just felt good. And so that was my big aha, oh, wow, I didn't realize I could feel this good. And I think there's a lot of people, you would probably have a lot of patients too, that you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know how good you can feel until you try making some changes.
And that is true. Like I think those are like so great nuggets that you have shared, is that, most of the people are looking for just that one magic thing that they are going to do that is going to completely transform their life. And I tell them, your life is made up of these building blocks. Each and every block has its own importance. So there is no magic pill, but if you work on a whole bunch of things, then collectively they create a great result. So, I
Yep.
think you shared that very well over there. And obviously, food plays such an important role. Magic happens once you start changing your diet and just eliminate those inflammatory foods from your diet. It does create a huge difference.
Yeah. So I think that was definitely the first major, I guess, diet and lifestyle factor. And then I probably explored other things after that. So things like realizing how significant stress management is, and reducing toxins, and some of those, other elements to that. I mean, I would just say everything I do is all about reducing inflammation. So from on every different level, my basic approach to my health is all about reducing inflammation. And so, but it's taken years to explore different things and try different things and add in, or maybe have the energy even to tackle different elements. So, I mean, I often say, yeah, we've got to live with this forever. And whilst we can feel so much better, and maybe we can put our Hashimoto's into remission, we've still got to keep the lifestyle going. So that the upside of that is there's plenty of time. You don't have to do everything all at once. You can make changes over time, because if you try to do everything at once, then often that's when you end up, it all gets too hard and you give up. But yeah, so I'm a big advocate for take that long-term view.
That is great. That is great. Yes, like each and every step is important, but how to do that and how to implement that step, is very important to know, because otherwise most patients do get overwhelmed. And then suddenly they stop doing everything because they said, no, this is just too much. Like either I do everything or either I don't do anything. And suddenly when they stop doing it, obviously they're not doing any service to themselves. And then they just feel worse. So I think that's where your experience has been very useful. And I think with all those years of experience, you have wrote this book, Let's Talk Thyroid. So tell us more about this book.
Yeah, well, I wanted to write a book that was the how to make those sorts of changes, because yeah, as you said, I guess I've spent a lot of time and energy and effort trying to make those changes for myself over the years. And there are some fabulous books like yours and others that are written by medical practitioners and have a lot of the the science and the understanding of why why we have autoimmune diseases, what triggers them, what you can do. So there's lots of great medical books. I wanted to write a book from a patient perspective that was based on, like all of the knowledge that I've acquired, but it was really about, well, if you've got to take out inflammatory foods, how do you actually do that? What are some practical ways you can do that? Well, reduce toxins from your life. Well, what does that mean? Like, how do I go about changing all the plastics in my cupboards? Or what do I do about perfumes? Or so I just wanted it to be really practical, so people, particularly people early on in their journey, or early on in realizing that there's a lot more you can do other than take your thyroid pills, just had a bit of you can dip in, dip out. Like when you're ready to deal with mindset, then you can dive into the mindset chapter. When you're ready to deal with the toxins, dive into that chapter. So it's just giving people hope and some really practical tools. That was the heart behind my book, was to make it doable.
And I think it was a high time that we needed such book, because, like as you mentioned that, a lot of MDs like me who have written the books, like we write it from an aspect of we want to share this information of why people are not feeling good, what is going on. But a lot of times we ignore the fact that just information is not enough. We need to give them solutions which are practically possible for them to implement on the daily basis, because that creates the overwhelm of how many things are you going to change. Like some people just get depressed to know that the life they have been living was responsible for causing the thyroid issues. Some people come with that mindset to see me, and I was like, no, it's not your fault that you created this disease. Like each and every one of us have been living this lifestyle before we came to know that how important it is to change it. So
Yeah.
then, like for them to change completely their lifestyle, turn like make a U-turn in their life is almost impossible. So I think your book, is a great way for helping people how to organize those things, how to implement it, and how to live, a thyroid-friendly lifestyle. That's what you call it, right?
Yeah, that's what I call it, because I think, well, I think too, in part, I wanted, if people were coming to see a practitioner like you, or a local naturopath or integrative doctor, or even just their regular doctor, and they're told you've got to make some changes, I suppose I wanted my book to be, and here's how you can do it. Like, don't get overwhelmed, because I also know that when you're in an appointment with a medical practitioner or a health practitioner, you're paying by the hour. You don't always have the time, I guess, as the practitioner, to spend on, let's plan out some meals for you, or let's work out how you're really going to, get your head around these things. And so I suppose I want it to be a bit of a compliment, to, to make life easier, both for the patient and then the practitioner, to work with patients, to say, look, here's a good book that's going to explain how to do some of these things that I'm telling you about. And I guess, I would say I found it really helpful to understand the why, and so I think that's where books like yours, I've read a lot of books, as would you have. And that it is helpful to understand why. I think that adds weight to the making the changes.
Right.
But so I think we need both. Yeah,
No, I agree with that. Yes, it is very good for people to understand what is going on with them, why that is happening with them, and second of all, how to get out of it, right? And then how to implement those changes. So you talk about these 4 core pillars, about a thyroid-friendly lifestyle. So tell us more about those.
Yeah, so I think they're the 4 kind of core areas that I figured out over time, a part of what I call a thyroid-friendly lifestyle. And exactly how it all plays out will be different for probably every single person. But these are the main areas that you're just going to have to deal with at some point in time. And so they are mindset. So just getting your head around, like what we were just talking before. This is a long-term thing. You don't have to do it all at once. Learning how to positively reframe some of those negative thought patterns, and negative associations that we might have with our own body or our health or our diagnosis, or like you said before, maybe what led to it. So getting your head around that. And I think that's important to do that first, because making changes requires the right mindset, and it requires you to make those decisions. So there's mindset. Unwinding is the next pillar. And in a sense, this is your stress management. But again, like, I wanted to reframe it as a positive. We want to learn to unwind, not just manage stress, but so there's some really practical, lots of different tools. And I think this is the one area that often thyroid patients struggle with, because we tend to be, as a generalization, the types of people that like to get in and get things done, and we're not so good at self-care and relaxing. But it is really important. Food is major, but I didn't want to put food first, because food is really important, but it's not the only thing. So that, but yeah, lots of good food ideas. Actually, the first book I've written was a cookbook. So this is not a cookbook, because I've already got a cookbook. But this, I guess the food, where I talk about food, it's it is that anti-inflammatory approach. And I give lots of different food meal ideas, how to cook for a family, the types of things to look for when you go shopping. And then the last pillar is that low tox living. We know, well, you and I know, and I'm sure many of the listeners know, that we don't want to be putting lots of chemicals into our bodies. Our thyroid's very sensitive to chemical exposure. So, but how do we do that? Like, we're surrounded by chemicals, from the shampoo to, that we put, wash our hair in, the water we drink, the scented candles that everyone gives you for Christmas, so how do we avoid all of those things? And, but, I think that's a really, so I think they're the four core, what I would consider the four core pillars of that thyroid-friendly lifestyle.
That is awesome. I'm definitely a big proponent of all of those four things. And I do agree. Everybody who comes to see me just wants to get on a diet and think that, the diet is going to alone do everything for them. And when I start talking to them about stress management, planning, changing their mindset, or toxins and things, they said, well, those are okay. I don't think I'm stressed out. Just talk to me about the food. And I tell them that, well, it's not about just being stressed out. Your thyroid is stressed. The numbers are telling you that, right? Your body's telling you that. So these things are very, very important, for getting your thyroid into good shape, because like how I talk, this whole endocrine system is like a symphony, right? Every endocrine gland is connected. So if one is not happy, the other ones are not. So we have to kind of, help them, all of those things. But I think I would like to kind of touch more a little bit base on two topics, because we are heading into the holiday season, and a lot of people will be, getting on a lot of sugars, like with candies and things, which is a part of the food. And then, as you mentioned, with toxins also, a lot of people do start, buying a lot of scented candles, or like, a lot of personal care products, when they're gifting to their loved ones, like perfumes and obviously makeup and things. So let's talk about, if you can give some practical tips about those. Let's talk about food first, like how to maybe avoid sugar or candies, like especially when the holiday season is coming up.
Yeah. So yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? And we've just had Halloween, which I know was become as big, I think, in Australia as it is in the States. So there's the start of the sugar season. Well, look, I think the thing that I've found the most helpful over time is to learn to avoid the really trashy kind of candies, lollies that are just completely full of all your artificial colors, flavors. Like, really, they've got nothing good going for them. They don't even taste good. So if you can really avoid, if you can just cut them out, because there are good alternatives. And so I think what I've learned is find the things that you really like, whatever your Christmas treats are, and just find a healthier alternative. Just Google. I mean, what I usually do is I'll search for something like paleo Christmas cake, or like I often use paleo as a search term because then it's sort of gluten, grain, dairy free, and they tend to use more your less refined sugars, so things like maple syrup or dates or even coconut sugar. So they're still sugar, they're still sweet, but yes, they're sort of, I guess, if you're going to have something, a treat, and let's face it, in the holidays, most people do, I do, then we look for if you love trifle, go looking for a healthier trifle version. If you love pavlova, I don't know, do you have pavlova in America?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, I think it's more of an Australian thing. It's hard to do without sugar. It's just basically whipped egg whites and sugar, and it makes like a meringue.
Okay.
That's hard to do. But pretty much everything else you can do as a healthy alternative. It's hot here for Christmas in Australia. It's probably, our Christmas lunches, and, parties and things that are on in that sort of holiday season tend to be salads and, not always cold meats, but seafood. So it's probably a little bit easier in that sense that we are in a summer culture, so we can do barbecues and lots of fresh salads. And so that's what I tend to focus on, is like make a really beautiful salad with avocado and macadamias or mango. Like we've got all those lovely tropical, fruits and vegetables that are, because it's summer for us. But if you just up the veggie, the veggies, don't worry, don't fill up on all the grains. Like who needs bread when you've got all these beautiful hams and turkeys and your good quality, your nice proteins, and then, just have meat and salad. And that's going to be a much better choice than filling up on grains and,
the sugars
and for the sweet treats, just find an alternative. There's lots of alternatives, and just have fun. See it as an experiment. See it as something, like a fun adventure to learn how to cook a few favorites a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think those are like great points, especially like, just look for the ingredients, right? Like whenever you're buying something, like if you cannot cook, if you're buying something, just turn around and look at the ingredients. Like so many people are astonished that there's so many chemicals which are added to the food that they cannot even pronounce what they are. They have no idea. And they just imagine that if it is added to the food, it is good for their health. But in reality, it is not. Those artificial colors, preservatives, a whole bunch of things are added, which are really, really bad to like, especially thyroid patients. So at least eliminating those is great. But otherwise, everybody do enjoy like a little bit of sweets, during the holiday season. I cannot imagine Christmas, in summer. I think, we are so ingrained of imagining Christmas, in winters and always hoping for that snowfall before the Christmas Eve, that we are all looking forward to it. So very, very different ways of doing it. But I agree. I also believe that, I think we are, the sugar is getting really a bad name and everybody's so terrified of eating sugar. And I always tell like my clients is that just don't get afraid, there is no particular food that you have to be scared of. Just, as you mentioned, just find the healthier alternatives in each and every categories of food. Now that doesn't mean that, obviously you devour like cakes or like candies every day, but once in a while everybody like loves a like nice, sweet here and there. Just make good choices which are healthier. And as you mentioned, really great cookbooks, really great recipes online where you can look and, make your own desserts. And that's what we do also in our house. We just cook meals which are with healthier ingredients and, everybody enjoys it, even our kids. So, because a lot of families have this concern that, their kids will not love it. I said, well, why don't you give it a try? And then a lot of times actually the kids love it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think, there are ways that we can be smart about it. And if we know we've got, parties, then we know that they're the times that we're going to splurge and have something fun, and the days in between, like the whole holiday season doesn't have to mean every day in December that you go crazy. It might mean you're going to a couple of parties and then you have a big family celebration, and maybe that's 2 or 3 days out of the whole month, and the rest of the month can be, just a bit more normal. It doesn't have to be this totally out of, you don't have to be out of control about it, but you can still have fun. And also, I think you can also know that after, if you're going to relax, you kind of the way you eat a bit, then just know that come January or February, you'll rein it back in again. Like I tend to do these little bit ebbs and flows. And so you think, yeah, all right, by the time it gets to early January, I'm like, yep, okay, I'm ready now. I've had enough. And so then I just rein it back in. And that's part of a lifestyle. You don't live on a diet. Like, I mean, I lived on a diet for probably 20 years, but so I'm very passionate about getting out of that diet mentality. It is, that's part of the lifestyle, is there's ebbs and flows.
Right. Absolutely. Great. Now let's talk about these toxins. So tell us about the toxins that you talk about to folks, or, what are the few things that they can do to reduce the burden of toxins, on their everyday things they're using.
I think it's just being aware of particularly what you put on and in your body. And we've just talked about food and, numbers and colors. So, we've kind of dealt with that. But we are exposed to a lot of chemicals through our personal care products. So things like, shampoos, moisturizers, makeup, and then obviously what we breathe even if we just think about what we breathe in our house. So maybe we have candles going, or different things that, air fresheners, spray toilet sprays, cleaning sprays. There's anything that's spraying, you kind of breathing in. And so they can all be very full of artificial chemicals, but they also, again, there are natural alternatives to all of those things. And so I think this is where gradually, maybe item by item, you can just slowly replace your makeup with, more. There's plenty of, I mean, I don't know the brands in America, but in Australia, and it was everywhere, like there are natural brands of makeup. So you've just got to go looking, and they want to advertise that they don't have parabens, they don't have sulfate, they don't have all the nasty. So, I think if you go to a more of like your Whole Health, those sorts of stores, that's probably a good starting place for a lot of those replacements. So same thing with your shampoos and your conditioners, or your hair care products, or other skin care, sunscreens. Again, you're wanting to be looking for things with clean ingredients.
Right. Actually, in
And let's
US,
face it,
like in US, there is a group called Environmental Working Group, which is the EWG. What it does is that actually wonderful website, actually, and there is also an app that people can download. And it basically gives you the clean foods and also gives the rating of different products on the shelf. So the major
yes.
companies which are available, they give them a rating. Okay, well, these are really bad or really good. So very nice resource, like which at least people US can use it. And I'm sure very similar brands.
Yeah, there is
might be in
something
Australia.
similar. Yeah, and there is, and there's also an app called something Dirty something.
Yeah, Dirty Dozens.
No, not the Dirty Dozen, although there is the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
Think Dirty.
Okay.
No, can't be Think Dirty. That would be too dirty. But something anyway. If I think of it anyway. But there are resources out there where you can type in ingredients or brands, and they'll tell you, this brand or this particular product has got clean ingredients, or mostly clean, or or terrible. So that there are a lot of great resources like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I make a lot of my household cleaning products. So you don't really need, I'm no cleaning. I don't like cleaning, but, bicarb soda, vinegar, essential oils, and some clean, Castile soap, and you can pretty much clean everything. You don't need to have all of the, there's whole aisles of the grocery store you don't even need to go down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those nasty chemicals, we just feel that those are the only ways to have a clean house or keep, our surroundings clean. But as you said, just with a few ingredients, which are completely natural, we can have the same cleanliness, and we don't even have to worry about those things.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, the hardest one I've found to replace, honestly, are candles. I mean, you can get completely, you can get just beeswax candles, which is probably the best. And I've tried making candles and adding my essential oils to them, but you do need a lot of, the scented candles, I think, are just better avoided. Like just get, beeswax candles, and then buy a diffuser and put essential oils in the diffuser just for the scent. And they have nice little pretty lights. There's lots of beautiful diffusers you can buy these days. So I would use those as an alternative to a scented candle, because although they're beautiful, they make me feel sick. So
well, you also talk about this thyroid personality. So that's an interesting term. So what is a thyroid personality?
I think a thyroid, well, I've kind of used that term, but it's a little bit like what I was talking about before when we were talking about not finding it easy to unwind, because it's that type A, fairly driven, overachieving, get things done, put everybody else's needs first, that type of person. And it's a broad generalization, and obviously not everyone with Hashimoto's has that type of personality, but in talking to a number of practitioners, they can identify it in a lot of their patients. I can certainly identify myself in that category of you just push on, you just keep going. You just, I've got to get things done. I've got big goals. I'm just going to keep going. And it's that tending towards that perfection, that perfectionistic kind of driven personality. So I do talk, that's what I call the thyroid personality. And it's not a bad thing. Like, we can really harness all of that energy for good. We can put that energy and effort into learning how, or doing all that, the reading and the trying and the implementing the things that we've just been talking about. We can use that energy and that, that kind of passion, I suppose, to just be, to really be aware of our own needs and to be really good then at looking after ourselves. I think, again, that's some of that mindset shift. Because I don't think we have a wrong personality. It's just, it's not that none of it's bad. It's not bad. It's just that it has, if we let it get out of control, if we let some of those elements get a bit out of control, then that's when I think the stress gets out of control. And that's when the thyroid, tells us, I need a bit more, calming, relaxing, unwinding time. Because I know in my experience, I can feel like I can push on, I can do this doesn't feel stressful, but my body tells me, no, this is too much. And so we've got to learn to listen to our bodies a little bit better as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point of using your own personality for your own benefit. I think that's the greatest kind of gift that you can give. And I think that's what you talk about in the book, like how you harness your energy but just put in the right direction. So that is definitely, a very great boon or great gift that everybody should learn. So that was great. I mean, shared so many good tips and things. I guess we can just keep going, but we are coming to the end of our time. So any parting words that you have, that you want to share with folks?
Well, look, I think probably the thing I like listeners to really get from, I guess, whatever I do and talk about is that there is hope. Because I think it is easy if your thyroid health isn't good, if you're in one of those phases, or you've just found out you've got a thyroid problem and you are feeling tired and, you've got the fatigue and the weight gain and the lack of energy and feeling a bit flat often. It is hard to have hope, but that's where I think it is important to build your support team, find great practitioners, but also find good support, because you want to know, we all need hope, don't we? And so we need to know that there's someone else that's gone before us, that we can feel better, that we can get our life back, and so I guess that's the one thing I would really like to say is, if you're listening and you're feeling a bit disheartened or overwhelmed, just take a deep breath. You don't have to do everything all at once. Just take one step forward and you'll get there over time. There's no rush.
That's great. That is so great. I totally is overwhelmed with the thing and the work that you're doing. Your podcast is so great. You have already books out. You're helping folks. And I think you're doing a great job. Definitely each and every thyroid patient need that kind of a coach like you in their life to sort things out, to help figure out where and how they can seek help. So please share with folks how they can find you, or maybe how they can, work with you. Tell us more about that.
Thank you. Well, I've got a brand new website called letstalkthyroid.com, which is probably the easiest place for you to go, because, as everything that I offer is there. And so, that's probably the one hub where everything is. So my book is there. The book, if you're outside of Australia, the easiest place to buy the book is on Amazon, because they print on demand everywhere in the world. It's, I know Amazon's probably a double-edged sword, but it's a pretty amazing service for getting, helpful books out.
Right.
If you're in Australia, I have physical copies I can post you. But if you're listening from anywhere else outside of Australia, Amazon is great. Just put in Let's Talk Thyroid and you'll find it. But yeah, I've got a podcast. Again, just everything of mine is Let's Talk Thyroid. So if you just remember that, that's probably the simplest. Pretty active on social media. So if you just want to follow along and learn with me, it's annabel.bateman.wellness is my Instagram handle. So yeah, but if you just go to Let's Talk Thyroid, I think you'll find everything there. I do offer strategy sessions to help people cut through that overwhelm, and I've got a group program, or like an online program that is all about kickstarting that thyroid-friendly lifestyle. So it's all there. I just like to help people, however well, I can't say however you need to be helped, but I think I offer a variety of services to help people where in different places where they're at.
Absolutely. And we are going to share all those links, in the show notes. So please, check her out, her website and programs. Thank you, Annabel, again, coming on the show. Really, thank you for sharing your thoughts and your experience with thyroid patients. Thank you again.
Oh, look, thank you, Anshul. Thank you for having me. I think the more of us that are talking about thyroid health and sharing our stories, I really do genuinely believe that is helping the thyroid community around the world. So thank you too. It's been a really enjoyable conversation.
Same here. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.